What happens after the last breath? Does the soul dissolve into emptiness or pass through portals beyond human understanding? Welcome, soul traveler, to the mystery of mysteries. Today, we will get acquainted with one of the most profound and mysterious texts of Tibetan Buddhism, Bardo Thodol, also known as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Imagine having a guide who accompanies you through the most important moments of your existence. That is what the Bardo Thodol does. It is not just a guide to the end of life. It is a map and a spiritual guide to what happens after death. Prepare to walk through this portal with me, decipher the messages within, and perhaps gain a deeper understanding of what it means to exist. The Bardo Thodol was written by Padmasambhava, a legendary figure in Tibetan Buddhism who brought Buddhism to Tibet in the 8th century. Born in India, Padmasambhava is recognized as the founder of Tibetan Buddhism in Tibet. Tibetan tradition calls him Guru Rinpoche, meaning precious teacher. However, Padmasambhava was not just a monk, but a profound spiritual teacher, a yogi who mastered mystical techniques and esoteric teachings. The Bardo Thodol, or Book of the Dead, was born from this master's desire to guide both the living and the dead on the path to liberation. From a young age, Padmasambhava displayed extraordinary mystical abilities, which earned him recognition as a Mahasiddha, a person who had achieved the highest level of spiritual realization and developed spiritual powers known as siddhas. He was invited to Tibet by King Trisong Detsen, who wanted to spread Buddhism in his country and unite the people under a single belief system. At that time, Tibet was a land of intense shamanism and animism, deeply rooted in the Bon religion, the original Tibetan spiritual tradition. This diverse and sometimes chaotic spiritual landscape made it difficult for Buddhism to spread. When Padmasambhava arrived in Tibet, he encountered resistance from various cultural and religious forces. The local deities and spirits of the Bon tradition opposed Buddhism, but Padmasambhava used his knowledge of magical and tantric practices to subdue these spirits. The integration of Bon deities and rituals into Tibetan Buddhism was crucial to creating a strong spiritual foundation. So, Padmasambhava founded the first Buddhist monastery in Tibet, Samye Monastery, and began teaching profound teachings on the mind, reality, and the cycle of life, known as samsara. In Tibetan Buddhism, death is not seen as an end, but as a transitional stage, an opportunity for spiritual liberation. Padmasambhava, a revered figure in Tibetan Buddhism, understood that at the moment of death, the mind is freed from the physical body and becomes more receptive to spiritual truths. He understood that this is a unique opportunity for liberation, but he also knew that many people are trapped in fear and illusion that prevents them from realizing this potential. Padmasambhava's mission was to create a manual for those accompanying the dying or studying in life, so that their minds would be prepared for the transitional stages after death, known as the Bardo. This manual would help them to pass through these stages and achieve spiritual liberation. Essentially, he wanted to alleviate suffering and open the door to enlightenment, even when everything seemed uncertain and disintegrating. This compassion was the basis of the Bardo Tod. He also understood that many people might not achieve enlightenment in life, but he saw death as the last chance. So he offered practitioners and students guidance on realizing the clear light, the pure manifestation of mind at the moment of their passing. Bardo Tod takes us through the three main stages, or bardos, that every soul goes through. Chikai Bardo, the moment of death. During Chikai, the soul experiences death itself, the transitional moment when the physical body dissolves and consciousness is freed from material limitations. Once the process of dissolution is complete, the soul finds itself in front of the original clear light, which is described in the Bardo Thodol as a dazzling, pure and immense light. This clear light represents the absolute nature of the mind and is a state of pure, unconditioned consciousness in which there is no duality, fear, or attachment. Some people call it the higher self or the solar mind. There are many names for this state of complete peace and completion. For spiritual practitioners, the Chikai Bardo offers the possibility of ultimate liberation. If one is able to recognize the clear light as part of one's own essence, one can achieve instant liberation and nirvana. In this case, there is no need to go through the other phases of the bardo. This recognition does not depend on rituals or doctrines. It is a direct and complete experience of truth, where the mind perceives itself without filters or distortions. At this moment, all conditioning, karma, and identity dissolve. However, for those who are not prepared, the intensity of this clear light can be overwhelming. Instead of recognizing this light for its true nature, the mind may interpret it as a threat out of fear or attachment to the familiar. In such cases, the soul retreats, losing the opportunity for liberation and moving on to the next stages of the bardo, where it encounters more distorted and limiting visions based on its karmic patterns. As Carl Gustav Jung once said, gods and demons are projections of the unconscious, powerful and inescapable, until we recognize them as part of ourselves. In the Chonyid Bardo, the soul finds itself in a state of consciousness without its physical body, in a dimension where physical boundaries no longer exist. In this state, the soul experiences projections of its own mind. These projections may take the form of angelic beings or disturbing, frightening visions. The bardo reveals the essence of the mind, where everything that has been suppressed, desired, or feared manifests in an intensified form. The visions experienced in the Chonyid Bardo directly reflect the emotional and karmic states that the soul has accumulated over many lifetimes. They appear in two different forms: peaceful visions and wrathful visions. In the peaceful vision stage, the soul is greeted by visions of peaceful deities who represent the enlightened and benevolent aspects of consciousness. These figures may appear as Buddhas, bodhisattvas, or deities of light, radiating the positive qualities cultivated by the soul. Peaceful visions have a serene presence and give a sense of peace. However, to the unprepared mind, these visions can be overwhelming or confusing, causing one to question the reality of what is happening. If the soul does not understand the essence of peaceful visions, it may encounter more powerful visions in the wrathful stage. These are known as wrathful deities and can be frightening. These figures are manifestations of anger, fear, and repressed desires, taking monstrous and disturbing forms. It is important to note that these wrathful deities are not external or malevolent entities, but rather expressions of the mind itself, reflecting the passions and attachments that still hold the soul in the cycle of suffering. The Chonyid Bardo is described as a state in which the mind is freed from physical limitations. This is a pure state of mental manifestation in which everything is intensified. The visions that arise resemble dreams, but, unlike ordinary dreams, they are strikingly clear and vivid. This is because the mind, freed from the body, perceives its internal energies in an unclouded way. All that has been suppressed and stored up comes to the surface with an almost tangible intensity. These experiences are seen as opportunities for growth and understanding, as they represent aspects of the personality that need to be integrated or transcended. During this time, those who remain fully conscious can see that all these experiences, good and bad, peaceful and angry, are simply creations of the mind. Understanding this truth enables the soul to overcome fear and achieve liberation. Bardo Thodol calls upon the soul to focus on the clear light of this moment, the primordial essence of consciousness, which is described as vast and pure radiance. Awareness of this clear light is the key to total freedom, for it represents the inherent nature of all beings. It is the sun among the clouds of vision, the light that remains unchanged despite all mental projections. If one can see through these visions, one can attain enlightenment and transcend the cycle of rebirth. However, it is difficult for the ordinary mind to see the clear light. Most people's visions are so vivid and personal that they find it difficult to see beyond them. This is why the Bardo Thodol recommends that spiritual practitioners train their minds to separate themselves from illusion and contemplate the true nature of reality. Through practice, even when faced with intense visions in the Chonyid Bardo, one can remain focused on the true light and find inner peace. fear and attachment are the greatest obstacles to liberation. The visions, by their intensity, can cause deep fear, especially of the wrathful deities who represent the wild aspects of the mind. This fear creates a sense of separation, preventing the soul from perceiving the visions as part of itself. The soul may want to run away from these visions, or, out of attachment, focus on some of them, especially the peaceful visions that bind it to the cycle of rebirth. To break free from this cycle, the soul must realize that the visions have no real essence. In Tibetan Buddhism, this idea is called shunyata, or emptiness. A mind that remembers emptiness during the bardo state can observe all visions without becoming attached to them, understanding them as temporary manifestations of its own true nature. Thus, the Chikai Bardo experience is not a punishment or pointless suffering, but rather a stage of self-knowledge where the soul encounters the mirror of its own mind. It is a test that separates those who are ready for enlightenment from those who must reincarnate for further training. In Sidpa Bardo, rebirth, the final stage of the journey, the soul faces a critical moment, the choice of their next body, based on the accumulated energy of all their actions, thoughts, and intentions, what we call karma. It is as if their entire previous life has been leading up to this moment, when what they carry within them determines their next incarnation. Having already experienced the dissolution of the physical body in the Chikai Bardo, and having come face to face with its projections and illusions in the Chonyid Bardo, the soul now finds itself in a more intense state of psychic density, with an intensified desire to reincarnate, driven by unresolved fears and attachments. It is this desire, Tibetan Buddhism teaches, that drives the soul to seek a new body and form of existence. During the Sidpa Bardo, consciousness is influenced by karmic tendencies, which are subtle traces left by actions from previous lives. These traces act as magnetic forces, drawing the soul to situations and experiences that reflect its inner state. For example, if a soul experiences intense fear, it may be directed to a rebirth in which it will experience the same emotions. Likewise, strong desires and uncontrolled emotions can create an energetic vortex that determines the soul's lifestyle in the next incarnation. During the Sidpa Bardo, the soul experiences a series of visions related to the process of rebirth. These visions often feature images of couples reuniting, symbolizing the creation of new life. In these visions, the soul is asked to choose a new physical form, unconsciously guided by emotional tendencies and karmic influences. According to the Bardo Thodol, it is important for the soul to maintain a state of calm and clarity when encountering these visions. By doing so, the soul can avoid being blindly drawn into unwanted rebirth. For those who are able to maintain calm and detachment, Sidpa Bardo offers a final opportunity for spiritual elevation. Reincarnation can be avoided, and the path of liberation can be chosen, which is the goal of spiritual practitioners. Instead of being reborn under the influence of illusions and attachments, people should perceive these experiences as manifestations of their own mind, ephemeral and empty in nature. Throughout the Sidpa Bardo experience, the consciousness experiences a strong attraction to a new body. This process, according to the Bardo Thodol, can be compared to a psychic storm. The desire to continue existing and be reborn again becomes overwhelming, as if it were an instinctive call. The choice of the next body is not conscious, but rather determined by the state of mind. The new body becomes a mirror of what the soul needs to experience and decide. This process of choice also reflects the Buddhist belief that each rebirth is an opportunity for spiritual growth. The body and soul we choose are most closely tied to our karmic and spiritual development. However, many people do not understand this opportunity and end up being reborn in adverse conditions where suffering perpetuates itself. Those who are able to see beyond these illusions can reach a state in which they can merge with the clear light, the highest essence of the mind. According to the Bardo Thodol, preparation for this final stage begins in life. By reflecting on our desires and fears, we become more aware of the impulses that shape our destiny. Spiritual practices such as meditation and contemplation of death strengthen our capacity for detachment, helping us to remain free of the drama that arises in the Siddha Bardo. Thus, Siddha Bardo reveals a simple yet profound truth. Life and death are interconnected, and the cycle of rebirth is simply a continuous expression of our choices and perceptions. By freeing ourselves from attachments, we can break free from the vicious cycle and achieve enlightenment, a state in which there is no rebirth because there is no illusion of a fixed identity. The Bardo Thodol is more than just a religious text or a collection of esoteric beliefs. It is a tool for self-knowledge, a mirror into our minds, and a guide to our destiny. It teaches us that death marks the end of one chapter in our human journey, but it also opens the door to new beginnings. As Ram Dass said, "When we die, the only question that matters is, how much have we loved?" In this sense, the Tibetan Book of the Dead invites us to reflect on our lives. Are we ready for the final journey? Are we ready to let go of everything we think we are? Perhaps by reflecting on these teachings, we can not only prepare for death, but also learn to truly live. If this exploration of life after death resonates with you, please share this video and subscribe to our channel. Let us know in the comments what intrigues you most about life after death, because our journey of self-discovery is long, and together, we can explore the deepest mysteries of existence. Thank you for watching.